afternoon, Pokesports, and welcome to another set builder video. I guess that's what we're calling this, where we look at a bunch of new Pokemon that were introduced in Pokemon Legends Arceus to see if they would be competitively viable in Generation 8/9, since we don't actually know at the time I'm recording this whether or not they're going to be added to Sword and Shield, but we can only assume so because Home Support was dropped. Of course, we don't know exactly what their movesets are going to be, what their stats are going to be even, because we do know that Legends Arceus did have a little bit of tweaked stats when it came to certain Pokemon at certain levels. But what we can assume is what we already know. Anyway, we're going to be looking at Dialga Origin form today, which is another boost to the Sinnoh Legends, right? They both received a very incredibly strong boost this current generation, with Palkia being, 20 base speed faster, and Dialga we're going to be looking at today, which is also 20 special defense tankier, which is, something to consider. Dialga is already very tanky. So in another meta game where Dialga is just even tankier, like, what do we got to lose here? Again, sorry if you don't like their designs. They're just infinitely better than the old ones because stats are all that matters. Anyway, let's get on to these sets. But of course, before we do that, make sure to go ahead and hit the like button down below. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, it does kind of give me the idea whether or not I should continue making them, because making sets for Pokemon that don't exist isn't the easiest thing in the world. I gotta do a lot of math. Sometimes math hurts my brain. That's why I gotta wear a hat. So yeah, please let me know down below by leaving a comment or leaving a like or subscribing that you're enjoying this. Starting off with this set, which is kind of like your basic go-to set for me. But first, let's talk about why Dialga is even good. Dialga is Dragon Steel, which we know, Steel being one of the best defensive typings in the game, and Dragon being one of the best offensive typings in the game. It's a great combination to have, huh? So we're going to go ahead and look at these resistances real quick. Resistant to nearly every type in the game, right? It's resistant to normal, water, electric, grass, flying, psychic, bug, rock, and steel, with an immunity to poison on top of it all, right? So this is a great Pokemon. There's a reason why not a lot of Dragon Steel types exist, and there's a reason why the ones that do exist are very strong. But yeah, only two weaknesses also. Weakness to fighting, weakness to ground, which I gotta say aren't two common typings. Fighting is not seen very often. It's really only exclusively reserved for, say, Urshifu, for example, and can easily be mitigated with just having a ghost type on your team. Same thing goes with ground. Not super common, is almost exclusive to Groudon and Landorus right now in the current meta in VGC 2022, but at the same time can also be mitigated by a Levitate or a Flying type. So the weaknesses that this Pokemon do have are both easily mitigated just by good team building, right? So that's another reason why Dialga can kind of just stick on any team and it'll fit. It'll feel great. Also, with the great abundance of Kyogres out there, with more than 40% play rate in Kyogre. Dialga doesn't care about Kyogre. Similar to Palkia. Both Palkia and Dialga do not care about Kyogre. But overall, the first Dialga set that we're going to be looking at today is a very offensive set, which is strange because, they did raise its defenses. But this is very solid when it comes to reliability, because a lot of the things that make this Pokemon good are raising its defenses while also doing a lot of damage. And this is why we're going with the weakness policy set this time around. We do want our ability to be pressure here, simply because a lot of the times when you proc your weakness policy, what we're going to be doing is going for a bulldoze, going for an EQ, maybe going for a Mach Punch into yourself. You're going to find a way to proc it. You got to be careful when you have telepathy and you can't actually do that to yourself. So make sure that it's pressure, or just make sure that it's not a spread move if you're going to go for the self-proc. We're also running a modest nature because our speed isn't very high, but we still do want to go as fast as we can. So we do want to still go with a 252 in speed and 252 in special attack. Make sure to boost both of those right away, because our goal here is going to be to Dynamax. Assuming that Dialga is in a Dynamax format, which it probably will be because VGC 2022 is here to stay for a long time. We're going to Dynamax, we're going to go for Flash Cannons, and we're going to go for Earth Powers. Flash Cannons, what will it do when you Dynamax? It's a Max Steel Spike, will raise your defense by 1 every time you use a hit. Earth Power will raise your special defense by 1 every time you use Max Quake. So we're going to be raising our defenses anyway through our moves. So our goal here is going to be proc weakness policy, right? Get +2 in special attack. Use Flash Cannon and Earth Power as their Dynamax moves. And then raise your defenses so that when your Dynamax ends, you're still a tanky presence on the field. And remember, look at all these resistances. Your opponent has 2 options when it comes to hitting you. Everything else won't KO you, which is why weakness policy is such a lovely addition to this item. Really quick look at the base stats. We have 100 in HP, 100 in attack. We're not going to be using attack that much because special attack is just infinitely better. 120 in defense, 120 in the special defense. This was given to it this generation with this form. The special defense was raised to 120, and then 90 speed. The 90 speed is going to be a little bit useful later on when we look at some trick room sets, but for now, 90 speed is just going to be ignored. It's not a great speed tier, but like I said, this Pokemon is so strong defensively that it doesn't actually matter. Movesets is pretty straightforward. We want Draco Meteor, not Roar of Time, because we don't want to wait a turn after using Roar of Time. So Draco Meteor is just like, you know, the nice compensation. And if we're running a weakness policy set anyway, the Draco Meteor will just bring you back down to neutral, so it won't make too big of a difference. You essentially get 2 strong Draco Meteors off for the price of 1. Flash Cannon is just your straightforward special stab. Earth Power is your really great coverage move, and also Max Quake in order to raise your special defense. And then Protect is just, it's VGC. You gotta have Protect whenever you can. Anyway, I think this is probably the best set for Dialga. We're gonna look at some more, of course, if this isn't your style, if you don't like weakness policy, Dynamax cheese. We have other sets for you, but I think all in all, this is gonna be a serious threat for the current metagame. The next set we have for you is very similar to the first, while also being very different to the first for multiple different reasons. It's similar to the first because we're really focusing on boosting our special attack. But it's different in the sense that this is a complete Trick Room set. And it's also even a Trick Room setter here with Trick Room as one of the spots, taking up the Protect spot in our moveset. The reason why we don't really miss Protect too much here is because if we're focusing this as a Dynamax mon, which is essentially what it's meant to do, right? It's meant to get up Trick Room, and once the Trick Room is up, Dynamax. Dynamax raises defenses, be super tanky, be super annoying. And what's nice about this set is that, hey, if you do get that Trick Room up, the HP that you get will make you that much tankier without taking away from the special attack that you were going to have, right? The other set relied on us setting up our speed, or having our speed be maxed in order to do the maximum amount of damage. What this set will do is ignore speed because you have Trick Room up, and then just make that tankiness that you get from the Max Quake and the Max Flash and the Max Steel Spikes that much more relevant. Because you can't be tanky if you had bad defenses, and you can't be tanky if you have bad HP. That's just the way Pokemon work. So by having both really does help it out. Of course, our Quiet Nature, we're also an Adamant Orb, but that's kind of a flex. You could always have other options. I mean, if you really want to go hard and commit into the tankiness aspect, you can just go for a Shucka Berry or something, or a Chople Berry if you're worried about some certain Pokemon in the metagame KOing you and you not getting Trick Room up. You could also go Life Orb if that's more your style. But just keep in mind you're going to be losing HP over and over. And the Adamant Orb and Life Orb difference is only a 0.1% times difference, so it's not a super big deal that you're missing out on damage, especially when you're maxing out on it and going Quiet Nature and all that stuff. Of course, the pressure is always flex because depending on your team situation, Dialga more so than Palkia probably likes telepathy if you're running Earthquakes on your team. If you have a Dialga and you got a Landorus, you should probably run telepathy and not pressure. But I'm just going to leave that up to you guys because it's kind of, I don't want to say common sense, but just that's something to consider when you're team building. Overall, max HP in EVs, max special attack in EVs with a 0 IVs in attack and speed. Make sure you got those 0 IVs in speed, or else you're not min-maxing the rolls in this situation. But overall, strong Pokemon. I mean, Dialga kind of does a similar thing in the current meta, so I can only imagine that Origin Dialga would do the same thing, but better. Our last set for Dialga here is, of course, the Assault Vest set. Now, similar to Palkia, but more so than Palkia, Dialga very benefits from Assault Vest because it does have 20 more base special defense, and on top of it, it does have 10 more base HP. That can really help out when it comes to Assault Vest because we're taking the 120 that we have with our Assault Vest, and we're multiplying by one. We're taking the 120 that we have in our special defense. We're multiplying by 1.5 because of the Assault Vest. That can get very disgusting. Of course, I've already mentioned this with Palkia. I've already mentioned this with Dialga. When you Dynamax, you have the Flash Cannon for Steel Spike to raise your defense, so you could just get tanky on both sides. And you also do have the Max Quake in case you do want to get tankier in your special defense. So your options are limitless absolutely limitless. Of course, the ability is flex. The nature is modest. The set I have here, I have 84 in speed, and the reason why I have 84 in speed is because after a +1, you are able to outspeed all the genies. So, got Tailwind on your team, or you know, you don't Dynamax and your ally goes for the max airstream. You're now able to outspeed all genies, which is really great. You're able to outspeed Thundurus, Landorus, Tornadus, which means that you also outspeed everything below them, which is a lot of Pokemon, right? Thundurus and Tornadus are one of the fastest mons in the current meta. So by outspeeding them, that's pretty relevant with just 84 speed and a +1. The rest goes, we go for the 236 in special defense because that's where we get the bump. Because we're modest nature here, our bump is at 236. The same thing as Palkia, because Palkia was also base 150 special attack. And then the rest is dumped into HP. You can always, you know, take 8 off of here and then go 4 and 4 if that's really your style. I think just keeping it simple and going for the 188 is fine as well. But that's just another option. Our moveset changed a little bit. We gone with the Draco Flash Cannon Earth Power set again, but we added on Blizzard, which is kind of coverage. I went for Blizzard. You can go for Thunder. You can go for anything, to be honest. That's a nice little filler spot. We have to use an attacking move because we're running the Assault Vest. So Protect, unfortunately, won't fit there. But all in all, I think this is a very strong set as well. Dialga probably does enjoy Assault Vest better than Palkia would. But I do still think that the weakness policy potential is too strong with this mon, man. You know, you guys know me. I like to go fast and I like to hit hard. But of course, we won't even know until practice. So there you have my thoughts on Dialga Origin form and the sets that I did build for it, assuming that it's going to be in the metagame. Real quick, please let me know what you guys thought of my sets down below, whether you hated them, whether you loved them, what your sets would be. Do you think Dialga is going to be a very strong presence in the metagame? Do you think that Game Freak is even going to let the Hisuian and the Origin forms into the metagame? Let me know all that down below in the comment section. Also, if you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit the like button because we have a lot more Hisuians on this list. Guys, I got a long list of Hisuians here. So, if you guys are enjoying these kinds of videos, I'll continue doing them. Anyway, I'll count this Pokesports. Have a great night. Peace out. Bye-bye.